Happy New Year. Okay, it's not quite the new year as I'm recording this, but how many of you are getting an image of a giant snowman in your head? It is coming down to the end of the year, and it is time to start planning for a successful new year and a successful, in this case, 2024. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing some areas that you might consider putting into your new year plan.
Are you an entrepreneur, small business owner, or consultant looking to boost your authority, influence, and impact? The Author Switch podcast with best-selling, award-winning author Carma Spence is your answer. Tune in for actionable advice, powerful strategies, and engaging interviews to turn on your author switch and take your business to the next dimension.
The Author Switch.
Hi, and welcome to episode 51 of the Author Switch podcast. I'm your host, Carma Spence, and I help entrepreneurs write, publish, and launch their lead-generating book in 90 days or less. Now, I know it's getting a little bit late to really be doing this planning. You probably should have started in October or November, but I've got your back because you may have been putting it off because you didn't know what to include. So I'm going to give you some ideas of what you can include in your New Year plan so that you can have a successful new year. Now, the reason why this stuff is all top of mind, in the new year, I'm going to be launching one book a month. So I really needed to dial in on my plan. So the first thing that you do is figure out what are your goals for the new year. You want to figure out what your sales targets are. Are there any new markets you want to get into? Do you want to expand your reader base? What business goals and book goals do you want to achieve in the new year? And you want to do that for each quarter as well as the whole year. I recommend starting with the whole year and then backing up each quarter so that each quarter builds upon the next, culminating in a fantastic December in 2024. So once you've got your goals down, or at least an idea of what they are, start dialing them in and make them more specific. And if you can assign them to each quarter or even each month, that will help you develop the rest of your plan because you will know what goals or milestones you are trying to achieve each individual month. Now, the second thing you want to consider is your content planning and strategy. And that's multifold. So if you're going to be writing a new book in the new year, or like me, 12 new books in the new year, you're going to want to decide what content needs to go in each of those books. I've actually already come up with working titles for all 12 of the books I'm going to write. And I even have outlines for some of them. And what content do you need to be producing in your social media, on your blog, in your YouTube, wherever you produce content? What kind of content do you need to produce and when do you need to post it in order to promote that book or those books that you're going to be writing in the new year? And if you're not doing a new book, maybe you just want to increase sales of a book you've already published. Again, what content will lead people to say, hey, I want her book, his book? Also, drop it into your calendar. A good way to come up with content for the year, if you aren't doing this around specific books, you can also use the idea of themes. Magazines do this all the time. Every month is assigned a theme, and all the content for that particular issue of the magazine revolves around that particular theme. You also want to align your book and your content goals with your business milestones. So if you have sales targets for individual months, how much of that sales target do you want your books to contribute to? And how do your books contribute to those sales targets? Is it royalties you're talking about? Because remember, you'll be receiving royalty. If this is an Amazon, other platforms might have a different thing, different cadence. But in Amazon, your sales in January, you don't receive until 3 months later in like March or April. So you need to take that into account. And finally, what platforms do you want to emphasize promoting your book? Do you want to start with your blog and then promote the blog and the blog promotes the book? Do you want to promote your book directly on social media? Do you want to do some new videos around it? And so like what you're going to do in Instagram is probably going to be different than what you're going to do on LinkedIn, which is going to be different than what you do on YouTube, because these are all different platforms. The algorithms favor different types of content. So you want to, if you can, if you've got the bandwidth for it, you want to tailor your content to the specific platform. Now, another thing you need to consider is your financial planning and budgeting. So you've kind of got your greater idea of what you're going to be doing and when you're going to be doing it. What kind of money do you need to put behind that? Are you going to run Facebook ads to move to your book? Are you going to put Facebook ads to move to your blog? Are you going to come up with a new opt-in and put Facebook ads to that? And not just Facebook ads. There's Twitter ads, YouTube ads, Google ads. What kind of money are you going to need to put behind this? And maybe you want to learn a new skill to help you market your book and your business. So how much money will a course or a mentor cost you? So you want to start figuring out, none of this has to be exact. These are all sort of like guidelines, ballpark figures, just to help guide you. It's like a roadmap. And like I said, when I was talking about outlines, you can always take a side trip. You know, you're heading down the road and you see a big sign, there's a big ball of yarn. Oh, I want to pull over and see the big ball of yarn. You can do that. But it helps you get back on track if you've got these goals and milestones mapped out for the year. Now that you've kind of figured out what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how much it's going to cost you to do it, now you need to start thinking about time and productivity. How are you going to accomplish the goals that you set out for yourself? How much time do you need to dedicate to each task? And I highly, highly recommend adding extra time. If you think something takes you 15 minutes, budget half an hour. If you think something's going to take you an hour, budget 3 hours. Because things always turn out to take a little bit longer than you thought. And if you double or triple the amount of time that you think it'll take, you'll probably get it in on time. And if you have extra time, yay! Read a book, hug your kid, pet the cat, do something relaxing, take a bubble bath. And finally, and this is something I recommend doing every November, December, is reflect on the year that has passed and put that into your plan for next year. Set aside a weekend, a week, where you just sit back and you reflect on what went right that year, what could use improvement if you decide to do it again next year, what worked so you do it some more, what didn't work so you either tweak it or let it go. And if you really want bonus points on this one, do it more than once a year. Do it at the end of every quarter. How did that quarter go? Because if you do it every quarter, you're able to make the course corrections you need to make in order to better reach that end of year goal that you had set for yourself. And that's the last thing, is add in time and jot down some strategies for how you might course correct if things go south or east or west or north and not the direction you thought they were going to go. All those things go into a relatively comprehensive New Year plan, but one that can pivot when you need it to. Because life happens, and the best laid plans, whether you're a mice or a man, don't always go according to plan. So I recommend that you take this weekend, if you've got it, to do these things. Think about your goals for the new year. Think about the content you're going to need to create in order to reach those goals. Think about how much money you're going to need to invest to reach those goals. What kind of marketing and promotions do you need to do? Figure out how you're going to do this, how you're going to fit it into the life you have. And what you might find out is as you're doing all this, you'll realize, holy cow, I was being way too ambitious. I need to dial it back. It's better for you to figure that out now while it's on paper than when you're in the throes of it and have to basically say, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean what I said I was going to do. after you've announced something and found out that you can't do it because it's just too overwhelming. And then always remember to reflect. And when you reflect, yes, you will notice things that went wrong, but do your best to pay attention to the things that went right, because things did go right. They always do. Hold on to those moments and have a wonderful, successful new year. This is Carma Spence of the Author Switch Podcast saying ciao for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Author Switch Podcast and would like to show your support, there are a few ways that you can do that. First, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Additionally, leaving a rating and review would greatly help me reach more listeners and continue providing valuable content. To stay up to date with the Author Switch podcast and gain access to additional information on amplifying your authority, influence, and thought leadership through books, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Carma Spence. For those interested in catching up on previous episodes, including those no longer available on podcast platforms, you can find them all at authorswitch.com/episodes, where you can choose to watch or listen to them at your convenience. Thank you so much for your support and for being a part of the Author Switch community.